Hello and welcome to my 100 Season 3 premiere review. It's a little bit late. I think most of the videos have already came out about 2 or 3 days ago, but better late than never, especially when it's me giving the opinion. So I'll give a brief overview of my history with the show before getting into the details and going through the pros and cons of the episode and some questions I have and maybe some theories as to where they're going to go. But we'll see how long I waffle on. I might not delve into the theories quite yet. I started watching the show about a month ago, and at first I thought it was just your typical young adult drama. It had a pretty forced love triangle. It had quite one-dimensional characters. I thought I could predict where it was gonna go, and then something just clicked between episode 3 and 5, where all of a sudden the shallow characters were gaining depth. The morality of the good characters was being greyed with the morality of the evil characters at the time, and all of a sudden we got an interesting drama about life, survival, and the responsibility of creating a civilization. And with the way Season 2 ended in particular, I thought it was very ballsy to put the main protagonist of the show and put her in a situation where she committed genocide. And even if you consider the mountain men or the people and residents of Mount Weather to be evil, you can't deny that what she committed was genocide, whether for good intention or bad. And I think it's good to see that not all of the characters have recovered from such a traumatic experience. So to start off, let's talk about Bellamy, because at the beginning of the show he was one of them one-dimensional characters that I thought was just a mighty jackass, and he was just a pretty big asshole, mean, big-headed, just thought he was right about everything. He was only acting like that because he was the only one with the guns, who was the only one with the biggest stakes, so people respected him because he was the most dangerous. He was very much for like the primitive, anarchistic method of survival in that time. But again, over time, he's developed into, I'd say he's more leaning on the good now, and the order side, than he is when he first started, which was drastically on the other side of the scale, on the anarchy side. And it's good to see at least one of the characters being in a better place of mind and a better physical place than when they started, because at the start of the show he was on the run after attempting to assassinate Jaha, the Chancellor up on the Ark, and now he's got a respectable job. He seems to be one of the lead squad members or lead scouts of the security team, and seems to have gained the respect of Kane, which is a big point, especially since the start of Season 2. And he's got a girlfriend, seems to be happy, and it's very good. I'm just wondering, in typical 100 fashion, how long this is going to last, because things don't seem to go rosy for very long. But however, one thing I thought that was quite strange is because of the time jump. The last time we saw Lincoln and Bellamy together in a scene was when Lincoln betrayed Bellamy to revert back into a Reaper and, gave in to his drug addiction. So it was very strange to just see them very chummy at the beginning, even if it was a spar. But still, there was like no ill intent in there, and there was no scene in this episode where they brought up the fact that Lincoln had previously betrayed him. So I'm just wondering where that relationship is. Like, is it developing into a good friendship, or are they literally just colleagues, or is there a type of bond there? I don't know. I'll have to wait and see if they ever have that confrontation, that head-to-head about what Lincoln previously done, or if Bellamy has grown into such a character that forgiveness can come relatively easy to him. So going from Bellamy, we'll head into the main protagonist, Clark, who, at the end of season 2, went into self-imposed exile and refused to return to Camp Jaha at the time, which it's now called Arcadia, which is a pretty good touch. And now we've seen her taking down a panther with the bare hands, which pretty good. Got a new look for her, going for the grounder style, which suits her, and get a really good glimpse as well into some more grounder society, where she's in a grounder pub or a grounder trading hub or market, and obviously the relationship with the girl at the till, wow, it was quick. It felt like she'd been there and known her and spoken to her for the few months that the story has progressed since. So it felt natural for the relationship to develop like it did in this episode, and we'll have to see if the woman makes an appearance again. I'm not too sure whether she was just a one-off or if she'll reappear. But knowing the show's lack of using just one-off characters, I'm sure at some point in this next season she's going to return and maybe not have a huge role in the story, but at least play a part in the story to come. I don't really have much else to talk about Clark at the moment, other than all of Grounder Society is hunting her because they believe she is Wanheda, which is the commander of death. Pretty cool title, even if she did get it from committing genocide and murdering a lot of young children. But it's great to see her. Great to see her suffering from the choice. She didn't just take it on the chin and act like she did the right thing. She is showing signs of knowing that what she did maybe wasn't right, even if the remaining members of the 100 were under danger of being scientifically killed by them. I think that it's going to be interesting to see Clark and Lexa show up, which might get into some of my theories later on in the video, so I'll come back to that. But now I'll talk about another character which is showing severe trauma from the season 2 finale, which is Jasper. And I mean, he's clearly a bit fucked up in the head at the moment. I mean, his love interest melted in front of him in the season 2 finale after getting that radioactive dose. And while I understand what state of mind he's in, he is still acting like a self-destructive arsehole. And at the moment he still has my sympathy, but I'm just hoping that this doesn't get into one of them Finn situations from season 2, where Finn was committing atrocities and all of a sudden they just brush it under the rug and none of the characters really point a finger at him saying like, dude, yeah, you're feeling traumatised and stuff, but you're still fucking up. And I think Jasper needs that really quickly. He needs that big slap across the face to get him to come up with his senses. But I did think the grave robber scene, where that random Arcadian is playing the piano and Jasper comes storming in, claiming everyone's grave robbers for using the equipment they've scavenged from Mount Weather. That was a good way to show his like self-destructive side. However, the shit he pulled with the Ice Nation, I did not like so much, because you can pretty much say that all the shit that is going to come from that confrontation, which I guarantee there is going to be repercussions of the fact that they just killed 2 or 3 Ice Nation scouts, is going to be pinned on him in my mind. Because fair enough, those Ice Nation people were probably going to attack, but would they have if Jasper hadn't gotten all up in the face and, you know, taken the beacon off that one guy? that seemed like a very overly aggressive move, and yeah, he's self-destructive, so a self-destructive person wouldn't think about the benefit of others. But that's why I'm saying that if he doesn't get his shit sorted soon, my sympathy for him is going to run out very quick, and he might end up becoming a negative for the show, which I don't want. And I want characters to keep being complex and interesting, but I'm just scared that this self-destructive side is just going to make him into a one-note character from now on. So, 100, you've had your chance to play the destructive card. Please rein it in at least, or at least explore wider range in that self-destructiveness, which I don't exactly know how you can do. Go from Jasper to talk about the final person in Arcadia, which I want to talk about further, which is Abby. Well, at least in the pro section. So I think it's good to see how Abby's joint roles as head doctor and chancellor of the camp is taking the toll, and how she's very tired and getting lack of sleep, and the general things that come with that. And one thing I was wondering about is her and Kane an item now? Because it seemed like when Bellamy was chatting to Kane about going out scouting, that they were maybe in his or her room and she was there. So that might be a thing now, which I think they had been growing closer and closer throughout the 2 seasons, so I'd actually be happy if that's the case, because it's felt like a slow and natural progression from adversaries to respect to friendship. So I'd be fine if that went even further into love and romance. Let the adults have a chance of happiness as well, please. So I'll cut from Arcadia and the Grounders, and let's head over to the mansion and the City of Light and see what Murphy's been up to. And I thought the introduction scene with Murphy, showing the progression of time, was a great way to do it. And they had interesting details in it to not just make it sort of artificially look like time's passed. Like you saw his scraggly little beard come into play, a bit like mine, and you got to see his mental state deteriorate and his aggression coming out. And again, you got to see some interesting little tidbits into the lore of Ali and what her role was in the destruction of the world. And also we've got to see Murphy at his lowest point, ready to pop himself in the head, give it all up and eat the bullet since he was running out of food. But one of my big questions is, why was he released from the lighthouse at that time? I know Jaha gave him that reason later in the episode, but at this point I don't exactly trust any word that's coming out of his mouth. And Murphy and Jaha have this great reversal in which at the beginning of the season, Murphy, I couldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, and I didn't like him, and I wouldn't have batted an eye if he died in the season 1 finale. I was actually a bit disappointed he didn't, because it felt like, what else could they do with him? He'd been an arsehole at the beginning, wrongly accused of murdering, exiled, came back, murdered people for real this time, then exiled again, or at least ran away, and then came back in the season 2 premiere, and I thought, oh, for fuck's sake, here we go again. But then in season 2 they developed him from this one-note, aggressive character and started giving him depth and a wider range of emotions, and we got to get inside his head, which this show has done awfully well. A lot better than some shows even that has bigger audiences. So it's good to see Murphy still kicking around. With Amori showing up again, maybe it might be Murphy's time to find some happiness. But last time he trusted her, it didn't end so well. And I guess now I'll talk about the craziest motherfucker in the show, Jaha. He has fallen off the deep end. I'm scared to find out what his motives are this season, to be honest. I don't see him as this kind and forgiving person anymore. It feels more like manipulation on his part, and we've went from that guy willing to sit up in space and suffocate and freeze to death and let his people live, to this sort of fanatical, cultish person, possibly worshipping nuclear power, possibly worshipping this artificial intelligence alley. I'm not too sure. In the City of Light, with that data chip, whatever it was, I was just getting Matrix flashbacks from like red pill or blue pill, like you decide. So I don't know what he has in store, but I'm not looking forward to finding out, because it will probably be the death of one of my favourite characters from season 1 and 2, which will be a shame, but it'll also be interesting to find out. Before I go into some cons of the episode, I'd just like to list off some little points. I don't really have much to go in, but it was good seeing Monty and some of the other 100 members training or actively going on scouting missions, because it makes sense for them to be in that role, because they have lived on this earth a lot longer than the adults, and they know more about the societies and they know more about the landscape, so it makes sense for them to be in that role in the community. Indra showing up and giving Kane and Bellamy the information that Clark is being hunted for her power, and the fact that she is Commander of Death, and the Grounders see that if they kill her, they will gain her power and possibly overthrow Lexa. But I'm still a bit cautious. I mean, Indra is another one of them characters where initially I was like, right, she's one note, she's pretty annoying, but at that point in the show I did have faith in it to be able to show us the multiple sides of Indra, and I knew she was going to be more complex than initially thought, and she turned out to be a very interesting character in season 2 actually, and one of the highlights for me. But I'm still not sure whether that warning was for the benefit of Arcadia or the benefit of herself, because she was one of the Grounders in season 2 that was actively opposing Lexa, or at least not actively, but wasn't scared to stand up and tell Lexa, I believe you're doing this wrong. So I don't know if she's using the Arcadians as a way to get to Clark to possibly kill her herself and gain that power, and to use that power to challenge Lexa with true authority, which she hasn't really before. And another point is just the continuing evolution of the setting. Like, it doesn't stand still for very long, which is one of the high points of the show. So it's really good seeing the fact that they've reconstructed the Jeep now. We've got to have a look at that Grounder pub or trading hub. We've got to see a glimpse that Grounders trade goods, and there's merchants with them, and there is the concepts of basic civilization in there. Maybe not currency, but there is at least a barter system, and also bounty hunters. You've got to know that the Grounders act a little bit like a Wild West scenario, with bounty hunters hunting the people that are presumed to have great power from all their deeds. And then also there's the Ice Nation, which we aired all the way back in season 2, and was told that Lex's previous relationship or girlfriend or whatever it was murdered by them. So we do know that the Ice Nation aren't necessarily the nicest of people, since they oppose the commander and the person that has set up this Grounder community and solidified them as one force. So let's head into some of the cons of the episode. Now, the first thing I'm going to bring up is that there's been a 3-month time skip since the last episode we had. And while that's good for seeing how characters have progressed in the story and seeing how they've coped with things over time. The problem is that sometimes when shows do this, they end up playing the catching up game where they have to spend a significant amount of time just getting us as the audience up, like, here's Bellamy, here's Clark, here's Jasper, you know. So it didn't feel as natural as it could, but it literally felt like they had to put all the dominoes back in place and sort of resetting the board, so to speak, and setting up the board and ready for this new adventure for the season, as opposed to season 2, where the pieces were where they were left in the previous season. So we got to jump straight in, and we got to get some answers and some intrigue, and got to see how characters coped with the immediate situations, and everything was very much in the now. While this seems to be a bit more of just setting up, which the 100 has had a very quick pace throughout its seasons. So I don't expect this to last very long. Maybe the next episode will have some elements of this, but with the way that the episode finished with Clark being captured, I can see the second episode just picking up the usual trend and just being like, right, now we know where the characters are. It's time to get the plot rolling. It's time to get the complex choices going and the morality and decisions and all the nasty, grimy things that are going on in the setting. Another thing that I thought that was a bit of a con was Raven, and she was also one of my favourite characters. Well, I say that a lot. There pretty much hasn't been a bad character in this show since, well, no, from what I think, there hasn't been an outright bad character. Probably the closest to that has been Finn, but that was mainly other characters' reactions to him didn't feel like they should, like the show was letting him get away with things that they shouldn't have. But Raven's problem in this episode is the regression of her character. It feels like we've had season 1 where we got to introduce her. She's stubborn, hot-headed, knows her stuff, and is like witty, and we got to see all that in season 1. Then season 2 we saw her at her lowest point, and we saw her pushing away help, and you know, the creation of a Deus Ex leg brace which sort of magically helped her walk. I'm not quite sure how that worked, I will be honest, but I was fine with it because we got to get away from Raven being, you know, pushing everyone away and accepting the help of that Wix, the engineer. And it was just very sad to see that while she has progressed still in some aspects, you know, she's helped create a Jeep for starters, and she can drive it, which, considering she only really sort of has one working leg, it must be an automatic car. There can't be a clutch on that, surely. But it's still sad to hear that she's regressed in other ways, like how she's broken up with Wix, despite him being a very good fit for her, and looking out for her, and all the things you'd want in a partner. And it seemed like the show just let her get away with saying horrible things, really. Especially chats with Abby. When she shouted at Abby, saying that she didn't need a doctor and the pain was fine, and pointing out how Abby just can't even help herself, and like, again, it feels like the show's just letting her act like a huge asshole. But then other characters are like, no, Raven, you're right, when she's not exactly right. And the way her and Abby interacted at the end of the episode, I didn't feel like that was deserved. I didn't feel like Abby should go and apologise to Raven or say how, oh yeah, you're right, I can't fix everything about myself, but I'm here as your friend. Like, no, Raven, get your act together. Don't become another Jasper. But at least the Deus Ex leg brace is no longer working since her hips are all fucked up now, which I guess I'm alright with that. But again, it just feels like the beginning of season 3 had Raven dealing with her disability of only being able to use one leg, and now the beginning of season 3, we find out that just it's sort of the same problem almost. Like she needs to have surgical help or medication to help her cope. But again, she's not wanting any help because she's stubborn. But at least I thought she'd gotten over that by the end of season 2. Now, to get into the last con of the episode, let's talk quickly about Octavia and Lincoln, which from the beginning I've been on board their relationship, and I thought Octavia went from that annoying girl at the beginning of episode 1 into this badass, like Amazon warrior in season 2. I just thought it was very illogical and again just sort of very bitchy, as if she took one of them Walking Dead pills that all the females seem to be on, where they just get irrational and just, you know, thinking different things at different times, you know. Like, I think it's commonly referred to as like the period pill, you know, just can't think of drama, so just give one of your female characters this period pill, make her go batshit crazy and just create drama that way, which I've always disliked. I don't like drama feeling forced, and this drama did. It just, Octavia just not wanting Lincoln to be part of a community. It just felt very selfish. Like she didn't notice that what he was doing was for her, because he wants to be with her, and the safest place for them to be is Arcadia, and Arcadia, whether Octavia likes it or not, is where she's from. So the way that she was acting when he came out with a security jacket just didn't sit well with me, and the fact that it seems like Lincoln is now pussy whipped, and he came out to the forest and, you know, went to sleep with her out in the forest instead of in the safety of the camp. Again, it felt like the show was taking the side of Octavia, when me personally was on the side of Lincoln. But again, the fast pace of 100, I'm hoping they'll deal with this problem before it becomes a seriously negative on the story, in the narrative, and I hope they nip it in the bud and they get that problem solved and they can get on with the actual plot, because I'm interested to see where Lincoln and Octavia are going to sit in that. Now, just a little theory that I want to just throw out there. So we know that from the season 2 finale, Lexa, the Grounder commander, has lost political power. So this means that some of the Grounders are now seeing her as a weak target and are hoping to kill Wanheda, which is Clark, absorb her power throughout doing so, and to overthrow Lexa. So, I'm throwing this out there. Did some Grounders believe that Clark might be the true resurrection of their previous commander, since she went ahead and committed the genocide of the mountain people? And if so, will that mean that Lexa and Clark are going to be seriously butting heads when they finally meet up again, despite the fact that they obviously had that romantic tension going on in season 2? And again, I feel like the Ice Nation are going to be actively opposing Lexa, because they obviously don't respect her since they previously killed her lover, and now they are going to be trying to get some of the other Grounder tribes or crews to have a Grounder civil war, or possibly to even go and attack Arcadia, or force Lexa into attacking Arcadia so that she can regain her political power and stance. Now, all that's interesting to say and to think about, but I do think that the true threat of the season is going to be Jaha and Ali. I definitely think the Grounder is going to be where all the action's at, and where we're going to get the like crazy oh shit moments of the season. But I do think the sleeper agents are going to be Jaha and Ali, and that the big Grounder civil war or war with Arcadia is just going to be a red herring for the true danger of the show. We've already seen some of the footage from later in the season with the big group of Grounders marching somewhere not quite sure yet, but they did look like Ice Nation with like the snow and frost sort of camo on the jackets. So again, let's see where that goes. So to summarise it up, I really enjoyed this season premiere of the 100. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. So I hope you enjoyed this review. It's my first, so it might be a bit rusty, but I'm hoping you'll join me again next week as we continue to delve into the setting and the story, and most importantly, the characters. Ta-ta.